Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Future Force, please subscribe and like my videos. Today we are diving into one of the most critical and symbolic moments of the ongoing conflict, a moment that has captured global attention and left military analysts, political leaders, and the general public debating its significance. The recent strike on the Crimean Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, has raised questions about whether this event could mark a genuine turning point in the war. To understand the gravity of this incident, we need to explore every dimension of the event, from its visible exterior to the less obvious interior workings, from its past performance and structural strengths to the vulnerabilities exposed, the safety measures that were in place and those that failed, the unique selling points that made this bridge so strategically important, the costs involved both financially and geopolitically, and finally, we will draw a conclusion about what this means for the broader conflict. The Crimean Bridge has always stood as more than just a piece of infrastructure. Its exterior is iconic, a massive dual-purpose structure stretching almost 19 kilometers across the Kerch Strait, connecting mainland Russia to the Crimean Peninsula. Completed in phases between 2018 and 2020, this bridge was celebrated by the Russian government as a triumph of engineering and national pride. From a distance, its sweeping arches and long spans represent permanence and connection, a steel and concrete message that Crimea was inseparable from Russia's territory and ambitions. This is what the world saw, an architectural statement designed not just to move vehicles and trains, but to cement a political reality. But appearances can be deceiving, and in a conflict where symbols are as valuable as soldiers, the exterior became both a shield and a target. What the outside world did not always see was the complexity hidden beneath. The interior of this bridge tells a much deeper story. Inside its reinforced concrete piles and underwater columns lie the true lifelines that make the structure stand. These are the components that bear the weight of trains loaded with military hardware, fuel, and supplies, and of trucks carrying goods vital to both civilian life and the military front lines in occupied regions. It is here, in this submerged heart of the bridge, that its fate was sealed. The recent attack did not aim to create a dramatic surface collapse for the cameras alone. It targeted the very core of the structure. Months of planning reportedly went into placing or deploying explosives near the underwater supports. Whether via underwater drones, special forces, or prepositioned mines remains partly classified, but the effect was unmistakable. At around 4:44 in the morning, an explosion erupted beneath the waterline, sending a plume of fire and spray into the sky and causing structural damage that reverberated through the bridge's foundation. This was not just a cut on the skin, it was a wound to the bone. The interior damage disrupted more than concrete. It shook the logistical arteries that have sustained Russian military operations in southern Ukraine and Crimea since the beginning of the invasion. This bridge was the main route for heavy weaponry, armored vehicles, fuel tankers, and even civilian freight moving between Russia and Crimea. Alternative routes by sea or through occupied land are slower, less efficient, and far more vulnerable to attack. So when the interior supports of the Crimean Bridge were compromised, even if only temporarily, the ripple effect was immediate. Supplies were delayed, troop movements were hindered, and a clear message was sent to both sides: this link is not invulnerable. From a performance perspective, the bridge had already faced challenges before this strike. In October 2022, a truck bomb caused significant surface damage, collapsing 2 road spans and setting a fuel train ablaze. In July 2023, Marine drones inflicted further damage and temporarily closed sections of the bridge, Each time, Russian engineers rushed to repair it, and each time, Moscow declared it open and functional once again. But performance is not only about being open, it is about reliability under pressure. Every closure, every detour, every moment of halted traffic chips away at the confidence of those who depend on it. And now, after the 2025 underwater strike, performance is again in question. The bridge can be repaired, perhaps more quickly than some imagine, but can it be trusted? Every truck that crosses it, every train that rolls over its tracks, now does so under a shadow of uncertainty. The psychological weight of that hesitation is itself a form of strategic victory for Ukraine. Safety features on the Crimean Bridge have evolved over the years, especially after the first attacks. Russian authorities increased surveillance, installed more cameras, stationed additional troops and patrol boats, and even deployed anti-drone measures. But the most recent strike exposed a glaring blind spot: the underwater domain. Bridges are often designed to resist currents, corrosion, and even ship collisions. But wartime sabotage by underwater drones or mines requires a different kind of vigilance. Traditional safety features, guardrails, barriers, cameras, mean little when the threat moves silently below the waves. The Crimean Bridge's safety systems, focused largely on visible threats, proved insufficient against a foe willing to innovate and exploit the unseen. What made this bridge such a high-value target, and what makes its story resonate far beyond the battlefield, are its unique selling points in this conflict. It was never just a bridge. It was a political statement, a logistical backbone, and a symbol of permanence in an otherwise contested region. For Russia, it signified unbreakable control over Crimea. For Ukraine, it represented both an obstacle and an opportunity. Take it out even partially, and you strike at the heart of that control. No other single piece of infrastructure carried the same combination of military utility and symbolic weight. That is why, despite being rebuilt or repaired, it remains at the top of the target list. Now let us talk about the price. Building the bridge cost Russia billions, estimated at around 3 to 4 billion US dollars. Each attack adds new costs: materials, labor, reinforced designs, additional security measures, and, less visible but no less real, the costs of rerouted supply chains, delayed offensives, or lost material in transit. There is also a price paid in credibility. A structure repeatedly struck despite promises of its security undermines the image of control that authoritarian regimes seek to project. For Ukraine, the price of the strike includes the development of specialized underwater drones or explosive devices, months of planning, the risk of intelligence leaks, and the operational costs of carrying out such a mission. Yet the asymmetry is striking. The damage inflicted far outweighs the resources invested. In a war of attrition, that is a price Ukraine is often willing to pay. Was this strike a turning point? The honest answer is that wars rarely turn on a single event, but some events bend the arc of a conflict. This strike is one of them. It may not decide the war tomorrow or next month, but it weakens a crucial supply line, emboldens Ukrainian forces, signals to allies that innovative tactics yield results, and rattles Russian command. Each attack on the bridge chips away not only at its physical form, but at the narrative of inevitability that Moscow has tried to build around its presence in Crimea. Turning points are not always about territory gained or lost. Sometimes they are about the shift in momentum, the moment when one side begins to believe it can outthink, outmaneuver, and outlast the other. This moment is also about message, the timing of the strike. Curly dawn, when vigilance is at its lowest, was no accident. The method, underwater explosives bypassing surface defenses, demonstrates that Ukraine is adapting and expanding its playbook. The aftermath, rapid media coverage, symbolic images of water and fire erupting under a bridge that was meant to last generations, feeds a story that resonates not just on the battlefield, but in diplomatic halls and public opinion worldwide. In the grand scheme of the war, the Crimean Bridge strike will be studied not only for its engineering impact, but for its psychological resonance. Military academies will analyze how a relatively small, well-placed explosive can achieve what entire battalions might not. Politicians will debate whether this justifies increased military aid, sanctions, or negotiations. Civilians in Crimea and beyond will wonder how safe their roads and railways truly are. As we move toward a conclusion, one thing is clear. The Crimean Bridge, once a symbol of permanence, has become a symbol of vulnerability. Its repeated strikes tell a story of persistence on Ukraine's part, and an Achilles heel in Russia's strategy. Whether this particular explosion is the one historians will mock as the pivot point remains to be seen, but it undeniably pushes the conflict closer to a phase where infrastructure, logistics, and psychological warfare play as large a role as tanks and trenches. For those following this story, the lesson is one of adaptation. No matter how fortified an object may seem, no matter how much steel or concrete is poured into it, if its foundation, physical or strategic, is left unguarded, it can be shaken. Ukraine found that weak point and exploited it. Russia will try to adapt, to harden the bridge further, to patrol the waters more aggressively, to use alternative routes. But the precedent is set. This link can be broken, and when it is, the cost is enormous. Thank you for staying with me through this deep exploration of one of the war's most defining moments. If you found this analysis insightful, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think this was a true turning point, or will history see it as just another dramatic episode in a long and grinding conflict? Either way, the Crimean Bridge will no longer be seen as untouchable. It has been touched, it has been tested, and it has been changed forever.